What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be giving you all of the best competitive settings for the finals. These settings will massively increase your FPS, lower your input delay, and make your game run a lot better and more smooth. They'll decrease visual clutter, improve visibility to make it easier to aim and see other players, and they'll just overall give you a big competitive advantage. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, make sure you stick around for the whole video because there's a lot to cover. Real quick before I get into it, if this video does help you, please remember to leave a like and a comment. It helps out so much, and consider subscribing so you don't miss any helpful content in the future. But now let's just get right into the settings. I'm going to start off in the gameplay tab. For use enemy team colors, you want this on at all times just so it's easy to differentiate between the different teams. Hide player names, this doesn't matter, I just have it set to off. For preferred region, just set it to whatever region you're in. I'm in North America, so I set it to North America. For crossplay, I just have it turned on. For crosshair, I have the width on one and outline width on one. And for the color, I just have the red value turned all the way down so I can get this nice cyan blue color. This sticks out really well on all the maps and it's really easy to see. Another color that I really like is just a green. This one sticks out pretty well too. However, I still prefer this blue color. Red, green, and blue outline, I just have on 0 because I like the black outlines. Center dot, you want to turn this on, and I have my center dot radius turned down to 3, just down a little bit from the default because it makes it a little bit easier to see what you're aiming at. And then I have the opacity on 100. We're going to skip the controller tab because I'm not really a controller player, and we're going to go into the video settings. For window mode, you want this on full screen at all times. This gives you the least input delay. For resolution, I'm really enjoying stretched res in this game. My favorite right now is 1728 by 1080, which is just slightly stretched. Native also isn't too bad, but I really think that this game does benefit a lot from stretched res. You're going to get better FPS. The hitboxes are going to appear larger. As far as resolutions that I think are good right now, 1728 by 1080 is my favorite. 1600 by 1080 is also really good. It's going to be a little bit more stretched. And then 1440 by 1080 is probably as stretched as I would go personally. But yeah, those are the resolutions that I like right now. For VSync, you want this disabled at all times. It just adds extra input lag. NVIDIA Reflex, I have mine set to on because when I tested it with on plus boost, I lost about 20% FPS, and that's with the Ryzen 5800X and a 3080 Ti. And it's going to vary from person to person depending on your specs, but I think on would be the best option for most players. But test it out because I did see a massive difference in frames with this. For resolution scaling method, I'd recommend using either TAAU at 100% resolution scale or AMD FSR2 at quality. There are pros and cons to both. AMD FSR is going to be a little bit more sharp and more clear. It's going to be easier to see things, but TAAU will give you slightly better FPS, but it is a little bit more blurry. I would really recommend staying away from NVIDIA DLSS and Intel XeSS because these both cause significant blur and ghosting that is noticeable on players, and it can make it harder to see. I am working on the config files right now to see if there is a way to fully disable anti-aliasing and upscaling. So if I figure something out, I'll make a video on it. For graphics, field of view, you want this on the max. There's so much stuff going on in this game that you want as much visual information as possible. Motion blur, you want this disabled. Same thing with lens distortion, disable this. For NVIDIA ray tracing, set this to static. For the quality settings on view distance, just leave this on low. This doesn't affect the distance at which players render in. It only affects the distance of objects and foliage, most noticeably trees. You do save yourself a little bit of FPS leaving this on low. I measured about a 9 to 10% difference between low and epic. For anti-aliasing, just leave this on low. I did notice a very small hit to my FPS, like maybe 1%, but not really any benefit in visual clarity. For shadows, just leave them set to low. You'll save yourself a little bit of FPS, but you'll also be making it a lot easier for you to see things. Going up made the shadows a lot more dark, which could make it a little bit harder to see things. It's kind of the same thing with post-processing. Sure, it did make my game look a little bit better, but just keep it on low. It's a lot easier to see things and you save yourself a little bit of FPS. Texture is one that you can crank up and not really see too much of a performance hit. I measured maybe a 1% difference between low and epic. It is probably just margin of error. However, medium is really all that you need to make your game textures look decent. I didn't really notice too much of a difference between medium, high, and epic, so I keep it on medium. For effects, you want this one low at all times. There is such a big difference in visuals when you have this setting on low because it's basically just 4 settings put into one. Just keep this on low. This will make things way easier to see. It'll make things less distracting and you'll save a lot of FPS. For foliage, I couldn't test any difference between this. I couldn't notice anything. I didn't see any difference in FPS, so I just keep it on low. And global illumination resolution, just keep this on low. Now we'll head over into the audio tab. Master volume, I just have it set to 100. Music volume, I just have it turned down all the way because I don't really care for music. It can be a little bit distracting. Sound effects volume, you want this on 100 at all times. And if your game is too loud, just adjust in your master volume accordingly. And then dialogue volume, I have it set to 60. Turned down a little bit, but not too low because you do want to hear some of those voice lines in game. You can get some useful information from those. For output mode, set it to stereo. Night mode, I have it off. I need to do more testing with this though. Subtitles, you want this off. For subtitle text size, just small and then 0 background opacity. And then for those of you that do use voice chat, set voice chat to enabled for all. And then mode, it's just personal preference. I like push to talk. Voice chat input device, just use whatever you're using for your microphone. And then voice chat output device, use whatever you're using for your headphones. And then I have the voice chat output volume turned down just a little bit. Now we'll go to to the accessibility tab. For colorblind mode, I like to play in Tritonopia. I play this in just about every other game that has this option available just because I like the color palette. I think it looks a little bit more vibrant than the default colors, but this is just personal preference really. The default options aren't too bad. And then subtitles, like the other tab, just turn it off. Same thing with motion blur, make sure that's turned off. We already went over my crosshair settings. Now let's head over to the mouse and keyboard tab. For sensitivity, right now I'm playing 1600 DPI 16, which is about 35 centimeters per 360 roughly, and 800 DPI would be 33. This is a pretty medium sensitivity for this game that would work for a lot of people. A good range of sensitivities for this game that I would recommend: if you're on 800 DPI, it would be anywhere from 26 to 44, and if you're on 1600 DPI, it'd be anywhere from 13 to 22. Most optimal sensitivities are going to fall within that range. You go any lower than that, it's going to be hard for you to keep up with some of the movement in this game, and if you go higher than that, it may be a little bit hard to control if you haven't built up that proper mouse control yet. That's why I kind of fall in between there, more on the slow side. For mouse zoom sensitivity multiplier, I would recommend leaving this set to 100 and mouse focal length set to on for right now until they implement separate scope sensitivities, but there are potentially a couple of different use cases, and I'll go over that real quick. So if you only use ARs and you feel like the sensitivity is a little bit too slow, you don't use snipers or anything like that, then you could set this to off and then adjust accordingly, then find a sensitivity that you like. Turning this off and having this on 100 will make your sensitivity 1:1, so it's going to be the exact same centimeter per 360 whether you're in hipfire or ADS. They're going to move the same distance, and I found that having this off and setting it to a value of about 75 to 80 feels really good and reminds me of how a lot of other games feel. However, the problem with this is that snipers will be really fast and they'll just be pretty much unusable. That's why I'd only recommend turning this off only if you use like one specific type of gun. In that case, I feel like this option is way better, but if you do use the sniper too, then just leave this on and then keep this one at 100. For mouse input vertical, just leave this off, it doesn't matter. Most of my keybinds are pretty straightforward and default. I like to have jump on scroll wheel and I like to have interact on scroll wheel as well. You definitely want to have toggle shift in this game just because the movement's so fast. You're going to be sprinting most of the time anyways, and it'll make sliding a lot more consistent. I prefer crouch on hold. I feel like it's a little bit better for this game. I also use ADS on hold, and then the rest of them are mostly just personal preference. But that covers it for all of the in-game settings. Now I'm going to share with you guys a couple of extra things you can do to get slightly better performance and visibility out of your game. So if you're like me and you hate the forced anti-aliasing in this game and you think it's way too blurry, it makes things hard to see, I'm going to share a quick tip with you guys. So in the description, I have this file right here called sharpen.reg, and what this does is it enables display scaled image sharpening. The default image sharpening in the NVIDIA control panel that most of you guys probably have uses GPU scaling, and that's not what we want. We want to use the old method. So make sure you download that file and run it, and then open up your control panel again, and you should have an option that looks something like this. Then we're just going to click on program settings. You guys probably won't have this right here, so then you click add and then scroll through here, and if you guys don't see one that says the finals like this right here, just click browse and then go to wherever you have your game installed. Mine's going to be in my G drive, Steam library, Steam apps, common, and it'll be in the finals folder, and it'll be discovery.exe. Just click that, click open, add that to it. And then the value that I like to use 0.3. If I was going with a really stretched resolution, I'd probably do something like 0.4 or 0.5, but 0.3 works pretty good for me, and it sharpens the game up a lot. It kind of offsets that blurriness that you get from the forced anti-aliasing. Once you do that, you just click apply, click OK, and then you're done. You can X out of that. Next, we're just going to go into our Steam. We're going to right click on the finals, manage, browse local files, and this right here, discovery.exe, we want to right click, go to properties, click on the compatibility tab, and disable full screen optimizations. Then come to change high DPI settings and check override high DPI scaling behavior. Click OK, click apply, and then OK. Then we can X out of that. And then the very last thing we're going to do is enable raw mouse input in the config files. So just come down to your Windows search bar and type in %local app data. This folder should pop up, and we're going to scroll down a little bit until you get to discovery. Go to save, config, Windows client, and then engine.ini. I'll have this option pasted in the description. You just want to go there and copy it and then paste it into your file right here. It'll be bEnableMouseSmoothing equals false, and that's all you have to do. You come up here, hit save, X out of it, and that's it. You're good to go. But yeah, that's going to cover it for today's video. Hopefully these settings helped you guys out. I know they helped me out a ton. If they did, drop a like and a comment. Let me know what you guys think below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot of final stuff here in the next couple of weeks. I'll also be streaming it a lot too, so if you guys want to see me play, the Twitch link will be down below. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.